gator hunter Troy Landry of the show Swamp People has found himself in a little bit of hot water.
Louisiana Wildlife and Fishery agents cited him after an undercover sting in St. Mary Parish last month.
The swamp demands respect and takes its toll. 3 stars died doing what they loved. One collapsed on a boat at 47, one flipped his ATV into a tree, and another drowned after a high-speed boat crash. The legal troubles were just as dramatic. One hunter burned his girlfriend with a cigarette in a hotel. Another fired at a shrimp boat, claiming self-defense. Even the legend with multiple catch records faced wildlife violations carrying 120 days in jail. These are the shocking stories behind Swamp Star's endings. Troy Landry. Troy Landry has always been the heart of Swamp People. Since the show first aired in 2010, he's been the one fans call the King of the Swamp. Born and raised in Louisiana, gator hunting runs in his blood. Year after year, he catches more alligators than anyone else in the state. But when the History Channel first approached him about doing the show, Troy wasn't excited. He feared they would turn it into a violent mess. "I was really worried they were going to make it a blood battle on TV," he said once. "It gets real nasty in the boat." But to his relief, the producers focused on the culture and stories of the swamp, not just the gore. Over time, his strong Cajun accent and calm but commanding presence made him the star of the show. He hunts with his sons Jacob and Chase, making it feel like a true family tradition. In Season 15, which aired during the 2024 hunting season, Troy decided to go big. He set a wild goal: catch 900 alligators in just one season. That meant he needed to get 80 gators on the first day alone. He split his team, Troy and his assistant Pee-wee on one boat, and his sons on another. They came close, grabbing 79 gators on day 1. But Troy wasn't satisfied. To keep pace, he pushed his crew harder: 75 gators before lunch, and another 75 before sunset. The man wasn't slowing down. Then came the shock. On September 19, 2024, Troy's reputation took a serious hit. Louisiana's Department of Wildlife and Fisheries had been tipped off the day before. Someone was illegally setting gator lines in Lake Palourde. 2 officers staked out the area in secret. What they saw surprised them: a boat pulling up to some white-flagged lines. It was Troy. Alongside him were another hunter and a cameraman. The team caught a gator right there in front of the agents. When the officers came forward, Troy said he had permission to hunt there. That part was true. The landowners later confirmed it. But the real issue was with the tags. In Louisiana, alligator tags are a big deal. They're tied to a specific property and are carefully limited depending on how many gators live in that area. Troy told the officers the tags were gifted to him, but the gator he caught had a tag from Iberville Parish, not St. Mary Parish, where he was actually hunting. At first, he denied taking any gators from the area, but when officers told him they had been watching the whole time, he changed his story. He admitted to catching the gator, but said he couldn't find the correct tags. He also admitted something worse. He had cut one dead gator loose before the officers got there. Later, they found that gator floating in the lake. It still had the same kind of line as the rest of his setup. That mistake was costly. The agents seized the illegally tagged gator, Troy's boat, and the engine. The 65-year-old star was hit with 2 citations: one for improper tagging, one for dumping the dead gator. Each charge could bring up to $950 in fines and as much as 120 days in jail. A restitution hearing was held on November 20, 2024. A full court appearance was set for January 2025. When a local news crew asked him for a comment, Troy brushed it off. "I got a speeding ticket also last month, but I have nothing to say about it. For fans who saw him as the face of honest swamp life, that response felt off. Some defended him. Others felt disappointed. Either way, it showed that even the king of the swamp isn't untouchable. Randy Edwards. Randy Edwards was known as one of the most genuine and skilled alligator hunters on the History Channel's show Swamp People. He first appeared on the show in 2010, during its very first season. He hunted alongside his father, Junior, and his older brother, Willie. Viewers loved him for his calm nature, sharp instincts, and the humor he brought to such a dangerous job. For 6 straight seasons, Randy tracked and hunted alligators deep in the Louisiana swamps. He didn't just chase gators, he made it look effortless. The way he handled the rough waters and fierce animals came from years of family tradition. He didn't need flashy words or a big media presence. People liked him because he was real. Even before TV, the Edwards family was well known in their hometown of Bayou Sorel. Hunting was their way of life. It was more than a job, it was a family bond and a piece of Louisiana history. Randy carried that legacy with pride. But in 2014, after 6 intense seasons, he quietly left the show. He wanted more time with his family. He had faced danger enough. Then came the terrible news. On the early morning of September 15, 2018, between 2 and 3 a.m., Randy was driving his 2002 Chevrolet Silverado on Louisiana Highway 75. He didn't make a left turn in time. His truck ran off the road and slammed into a utility pole. The impact was brutal. The truck flipped and landed upside down. Randy wasn't wearing a seatbelt. He was thrown from the vehicle and died at the scene. He was just 35 years old. A local EMT named Nicholas Cazelot was one of the first to arrive. He later said the truck was upside down, wheels in the air. The crash was that violent. The police believed alcohol may have been involved. Toxicology tests were ordered, and reports suggested he might have been slightly impaired. The news hit hard. It spread fast across the Swamp People community. A family friend, Ronnie Adams, announced the loss on Randy's parents' Facebook page. Fans poured in with messages of support and sorrow. His castmates, producers, and longtime viewers all felt the weight of it. Randy had been one of the show's original hearts. He left behind his wife, Terry, and 3 young children. People close to him remembered how kind and friendly he was. One friend, Suzette Ganaway, said, "Randy was a good person. A lot of people liked him. He had a lot of friends. People cared about him." His story is one of tradition, family, and quiet strength. But it also became a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly life can change. In just one moment, a life filled with history, love, and purpose came to an end. And for everyone who watched him on screen or knew him in real life, it was a loss that still lingers. Mitchell Gist. Mitchell Gist was not your typical TV star. With a thick beard and a quiet charm, he lived deep in the Louisiana swamps, far away from city life. Born and raised on Conway Bayou, Mitchell shared almost every moment with his brother Glenn. Locals didn't even say their names separately. They just called them Glenn Mitchell. Viewers first saw Mitchell and Glenn on seasons 2 and 3 of Swamp People on the History Channel. The brothers weren't acting. They lived off the land, just like their father taught them. They hunted alligators, caught catfish and crayfish, and cooked meals the old Cajun way. One of their most famous dishes was squirrel and dumplings, a family recipe that came straight from their dad, Hubert. Mitchell was tough, but he was also kind. He had a deep love for the swamp and everything it gave him. But on May 14, 2012, That simple life came to a sudden end. Mitchell was only 47 years old. He was on a boat, being towed by a barge along the Intracoastal Waterway in Louisiana, about 70 miles west of New Orleans. He was working on a houseboat project when it happened. A co-worker in another boat saw Mitchell suddenly collapse. He fell backward, as if he had suffered a heart attack or a stroke. The co-worker quickly got Mitchell's boat back to the dock, just 100 yards away, and called 911. People tried to help. CPR was performed. Mitchell was taken to the hospital. But it was too late. He was pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy confirmed that he died of natural causes. The History Channel said it best. Mitchell passed on the swamp, doing what he loved. That simple statement meant a lot. Glenn later finished the houseboat Mitchell had started. It was more than a tribute. It was a final gift from brother to brother. Mitchell was buried on May 19, 2012. His funeral was held at Urso Funeral Home in Gonzales, and he was laid to rest at Lusk Cemetery. He left behind Glenn, his sister Tanya, who sadly passed away in 2020, and many nieces, nephews, and cousins. He was also preceded in death by his parents, Bonnie and Hubert, and two brothers, Hubert Jr. and Daniel. In his obituary, the family wrote a simple but heartfelt message. "We love and miss you. One day you'll kill that big buck, just to make Michael mad." It captured Mitchell's spirit. Funny, wild, and full of love. After his death, Swamp people aired special tributes to honor him. Fans, friends, and fellow hunters all felt the loss. But Mitchell Gist didn't just disappear. His life, his bond with Glenn, and his love for the swamp are still remembered today. He lived his life on his own terms, and in the end, he died doing what made him happy, right there on the water, surrounded by the place he called home. R.J. and J. Paul Molinas. They joined in Season 2 and brought something special. They were tough, Native American, and fiercely proud of their heritage. Hunting wasn't just survival, it was tradition. R.J., only 5 feet 4 and 154 pounds, was a powerhouse. He had won 4 world championships in arm wrestling, 11 national titles, and even took trophies at the Arnold Classic and GNC contests. Small guy, huge strength. J. Paul had his own incredible story. At age 10, a jet ski hit him. His skull cracked open, an 8-inch fracture. He slipped into a coma for 3 days. Doctors didn't think he'd talk again, but he proved them wrong. Not only did he speak again, he fought, literally. J. Paul went on to win Golden Gloves in boxing and had over 30 amateur MMA fights by his 20s. But all their fame and respect took a hit in 2013. On August 8th, something went wrong. It started as a roadside argument with a 24-year-old man on Highway 101 in Bourg, Louisiana. But it didn't stop there. The man drove to Roland's Mini-Mart. The Molinas followed. Security footage showed their pickup pulling up, hazard lights on. Moments later, they allegedly attacked the man. The sheriff's report said the victim had a black eye, a swollen jaw, and a big bump on his head. He said someone hit him with a beer bottle. The store owner, Roland Henry, a former school board member, had to step in to break it up. On September 6th, R.J. and J. Paul turned themselves in. They were charged with aggravated battery and released on $1,000 bail each. Their lawyers claimed they were actually the victims. They said the man had thrown a beer bottle at them earlier in Lafourche Parish. But if convicted, they were looking at up to 13 years behind bars. They pleaded not guilty, but what happened after that is still unclear. Despite everything, the History Channel didn't cut them loose right away. They stayed on the show until 2019. Then they quietly disappeared, with no explanation. Chase Landry. Chase Landry wasn't just another face on TV. Born on April 25, 1989, in Pierre Part, Louisiana, he was the son of Troy Landry. Fans of Swamp People quickly noticed Chase's calm nature and razor-sharp aim. On screen, he didn't say much, but when it came time to fire, he rarely missed. In one unforgettable moment during Season 6, Chase actually stepped off his boat onto a shaky, half-sunk platform just to get a better shot at a huge 12-foot gator. Viewers held their breath. That's who Chase was: steady, focused, fearless. But in 2016, his skill with a rifle turned into something far more serious. On September 5th, while hunting gators in Bayou Chain, Chase made a decision that would change everything. As a shrimp boat passed nearby, he fired his gun. The bullet hit a plastic gas can sitting on top of the boat's cabin. Gas started leaking. People on board panicked and immediately called the authorities, telling them someone had shot at them from a nearby boat stacked with alligators. Chase was later stopped by St. Mary Parish deputies. He didn't deny it. He told them he thought the shrimp boat was coming in too fast and could crash into his boat. In his words, it was self-defense. He feared getting sunk in gator-infested waters. The police weren't convinced. He was arrested and charged with illegal discharge of a firearm, then taken to Terrebonne Parish Jail. Then things got even stranger. On December 5, 2017, over a year later, Chase was supposed to appear in court for the first day of his trial. His lawyer showed up. Chase didn't. The judge wasted no time. A bench warrant was issued for his arrest. TMZ covered the story and joked that maybe Chase had gone off hunting again. But fans were stunned. Why wouldn't he show up to something so serious? And the timing couldn't have been worse. Just 9 months earlier, in March 2017, Chase had become a father. His daughter, Riley Blake Landry, had just been born. He was starting a new chapter as a parent, yet now he was facing possible jail time. That's what made all this even harder to believe. Only weeks before the shooting, Louisiana had been devastated by historic floods. Thousands were trapped. Chase jumped in to help. For 5 days straight, he used his 20-foot aluminum boat to rescue stranded families. No cameras, no pay, just chaos, fear, and Chase doing what needed to be done. He later called it pure chaos and said people were terrified. Around that same time, fans remembered another moment on the show: Chase rescuing a helpless baby deer from an approaching gator. That was the Chase they thought they knew. His legal issues revealed a different side. He wasn't just the quiet, skilled hunter anymore. He was someone capable of making split-second decisions with real consequences. The case never got much public follow-up, and the final outcome wasn't widely reported. But the impact stayed. His net worth, estimated between $200,000 and $600,000, suddenly didn't matter as much as the questions fans were left with. Joseph Lefant. Joseph Trapper Joe. Lefant became famous in 2010 when Swamp People first aired on the History Channel. He lived deep in Louisiana's Atchafalaya River Basin and had spent his life hunting alligators. On the show, he usually teamed up with his stepson, Tommy Chauvin, also known as Trigger Tommy. Their scenes stood out not just for the alligator hunts, but also for the tension between them. Sometimes they worked together perfectly. Other times they argued, but that's what made them fun to watch. One of their biggest moments came when they faced off with a massive alligator called Big Jake. This wasn't just any gator. Big Jake ruled his territory and scared off others. When they found him, Tommy had to fire more than once to bring him down. That episode aired at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night and became one of the show's most talked-about scenes. Fans loved it. It showed how dangerous, raw, and real their world could be. Lefant's fame grew quickly. In January 2012, he showed up at the 32nd Charleston Boat Show, signing autographs and telling wild stories. One tale stood out. He described a moment when an alligator hidden in tall marsh grass rushed him from behind. It knocked him down so fast he didn't see it coming. "Lucky for me, he didn't turn around to finish the job," he told the crowd. It reminded everyone that even with experience, the swamp was never safe. But things changed fast. On June 20th, 2012, Lefant was arrested in Orange County, Florida. It happened just after midnight at the Buena Vista Hotel and Spa. Witnesses said he got into a loud argument with his girlfriend. Both had been drinking. She had picked up his phone to see who had called, and that's when the fight started. What happened next shocked everyone. People nearby said Lefant tried to burn her with a lit cigarette. He then hit her in the chest, grabbed her arms, and shook her while she cried. Lefant denied everything, but the police arrested him and took him into custody. Some reports said his bail was set at $1,500. Others claimed it was only $50. Either way, the damage was done. Justin Gist. Justin Gist grew up in the heart of Louisiana's swamp country. He came from the famous Gist family, known across America for their appearances on the History Channel show Swamp People. While his cousins Mitchell and Glenn were more often seen on screen with their big beards and bold personalities, Justin was quieter. But in the swamp, he was just as skilled. He knew every twist and turn of the bayou, and people respected him for that. Justin didn't chase fame. He focused on what he knew best: living off the land, navigating the water, and staying true to the Cajun lifestyle passed down through generations. On the rare occasions he did appear on the show, fans could tell he was the real deal. He wasn't acting. He lived and breathed the swamp. Then came the tragedy that no one saw coming. It was February 23rd, 2016. Justin, just 41 years old, was out on the water with his family. The boat was moving fast through the bayou, slicing through the murky surface like it had many times before. But hidden under that water was danger. The boat hit something submerged, something no one saw coming. The crash was sudden and violent. The boat flipped, and Justin was thrown out with incredible force. His family jumped into action, trying to find him. They searched the water, calling his name, hoping he'd come up. But he didn't. Rescue teams arrived and searched all night. The next day, they found his body 3 miles from the crash site. He had drowned. Investigators believed the impact knocked him out. He never had a chance to swim or call for help. Justin's death was a hard blow, not just for the family, but for everyone who followed the show. It brought back the pain of losing Mitchell just 4 years earlier. Mitchell had died in 2012, just before his 48th birthday, after falling while loading his boat. That loss had shaken the family. Now, another tragedy. Another Gist gone too soon. The swamp gives, but it also takes. That's what people often say. For the Gist family, it's more than a saying. It's something they've lived through more than once. Fans remembered Justin for his quiet strength and fearless heart. He didn't need the spotlight to prove who he was. Bill Booth. Bill Booth was known to many as Florida's Crocodile Dundee. He became a familiar face on the History Channel's Swamp People Serpent Invasion, where his boldness and charm made him stand out. At 6 feet 4 inches tall, he had a presence that couldn't be ignored, whether on TV or deep in the Florida wilderness. But long before cameras followed him into the swamp, He had already made a name for himself as one of the best reptile hunters in the state. His reputation was built on real experience, not reality TV. Back in 2013, he and his team, who called themselves the Python Posse, came in second during Florida's first-ever Python Challenge. They didn't stop there. Later, they won the whole thing by catching a giant 15.5-foot python. That win put them at the top for both the most snakes caught and the largest one bagged. It wasn't just a victory. It turned Booth into a symbol of Florida's fight to control invasive species. On the show, Booth did things no one else dared. While other hunters hesitated, he charged into thick brush and came out holding massive, writhing snakes. He wasn't just tough, he was fearless. His catchphrase, "I'd rather be dancing with an alligator or kissing a python than sitting in traffic in Tampa," summed him up perfectly. Viewers loved him for it. But what most people didn't know was that Bill Booth had lived many lives before TV. For 20 years, he worked as a certified firefighter and instructor. He was also a licensed Coast Guard captain, a certified diver, and an award-winning taxidermist. In fact, he won the title of National Taxidermy Champion in 2004. His business, which he started in 1990, reflected his deep knowledge of wildlife and his respect for the animals he worked with. Then, just as his star was rising, everything came to a sudden end. On February 26, 2020, Booth was riding his ATV through the swamp, the place he loved most, when he crashed into a tree. He was going fast, and the thick terrain made it hard to see. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but his injuries were too severe. He died that day at the age of 53. The news hit hard. Fans, fellow hunters, and the entire Swamp People team were devastated. It felt cruel that someone who had spent his life braving the wild would die like this, but there was a strange sense of truth in it too. Booth had always said he'd rather die doing what he loved than collapse pulling a ladder off a fire truck. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. His legacy lives on in the swamps of Florida, in the fight to protect its wildlife, in the people he inspired, and in the unforgettable way he faced danger with calm, skill, and a grin.